This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so happy Monday. Today is November 12th. So a few things going on. First of all, any of our veterans out there, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for your service. I know Veterans Day was yesterday, and today obviously is the observed holiday for a lot of people out there. So, thank you for all that you have done if we have any veterans. And also, we have a bunch going on this week. So we have the end of level 2 and then level 3 classes beginning this week. We're going to be doing all of our classes starting at 9:15. So we're going to be doing a lot of work with stories coming from the pre-market. That's really going to be what we're going to be focusing on. So tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday will all be at 9:15, and then as always, Traders Exchange at 12:30 tomorrow. TE at aheadofthecharts.com. Make sure you send any of your questions or topics to there, and we'll be doing that as usual, as we do every week tomorrow. All right, guys, let's talk about what's going on out there. So we have very interesting stock, and it's probably the number one we got going on out there. It says AMRN. So AMRN has a full-blown story already. First of all, so we have ask prints at 20 and 19, 1850, we have sell prints. And then 18, we have a few sell prints coming in. So as we were coming back up this 1850 level, basically it showed a whole bunch of ask prints. Okay, what that tells us is that the stock needs to pull back, and we do have a little bit of selling at that 18. You can see that selling that just came in at 1870. So this person looks like they're taking a position for the fall down below 18 before overall eventually we're going to end up seeing this thing come back up above that 20 level from the ask prints we have. So we literally have a full-blown story already within the stock coming into the pre-market. So it's certainly by far one of the better things that we have out there, trading 3 million shares already this morning. So it is certainly hot. It usually only moves about $1, but because obviously the change in volume here, we can, pretty much, to a very high percentage assume that this thing is going to have way more than $1 range today. In the actual market, we know that it already has in the pre-market. Let's talk about Apple. So Apple coming under 200, not even close to the amount I'm expecting under 200 yet, though. All right, we have way too many prints that came into this stock. So we can see right here, we had new selling that came in at 199. Now, the new selling is great. And, basically what it's telling us is the stock was going to come back up to 200. We do have some, that covering that came in as well. But you can see new selling at 1960. So we are still continuing to see new selling. But based off the story we know and based off the amount of prints we saw at 200, this thing has a lot more downside potential in it. Whoever sold that many shares at 200 was not looking to make $1 by any means. So keep that in mind as you're going. I know we were talking about 210 over here. I mean, it was just another one that kind of fit our perfect case scenario trade, coming up to that 210 level, a little bit over, but not by much, and then breaking back down to where we have all of those bid prints at that 200. So we're coming back up a little bit, and it's pulling up on the selling once again from that 199. And we're like I said, it's still going to be expecting this thing a lot more room to that downside. And other than that, everything else is just kind of slow. It looks like the AMRN has pretty much taken almost all of our volume out of there. So let's take a look at our scanners and see what we got going. All right, so APTI looked like a buyout. Absolutely nothing going on there. No interest in looking at it. MTNB, 430,000 shares. But you can see it jumped up on absolutely no volume. Overall volume is great. Don't get me wrong, 430,000 shares, but it's just not showing any real potential for this thing to be able to do anything. Moving along, we have LCI, 206,000 shares, but same type of deal. It's got some decent movement in it for such a cheap stock, but at the same time, look at this volume. Just no one is really adamant about anything going on with it. So if they're not, we're not either. SBGL, 112,000 shares, absolutely nothing. And then we have ACB, 1.2 million shares, which is just it's not terrible, and I do like this stock. It does, but the only thing that I'm not a big fan of is it doesn't really trade that great sometimes. If we come back over here and look, you can see just a lot of consolidated trading within it. We are going to put it on our list because we can see we do have some nice new buying that came in at that 750 level as we were coming back up, and even above it, you can see some real nice bursts that came back in. Keep in mind right here, the stock wasn't trading around these prices, and this big burst came in at 825 this morning. So what that's telling us is that somebody's reporting a whole bunch of shares. Really what we look for when we see something like this, bearish below 720, bullish above the higher number. So then in this case, it would be 749. All right, so based off of this right here, we should be getting a real nice move. That's a beautiful burst, and the difficulty of trade of being able to to come out there and show this. I mean, the difficulty of trade, us being able to do it is impossible. So being able to report it afterwards, it just shows a lot. So like I said, bullish above 749, bearish below that 727 based off of what we saw coming in right here. Yeah, it's really not. I mean, there's times where it's got some good movement, but just overall, it doesn't really show it. So we are going to get this on our list, but it's going to be on our side list, and it's really because we're reaching a little bit. There's just not really much out there, for us to be looking at. All right, so that's it for our loser side of things. Let's go, our gainer side of things. Let's go over to our losers. So we have LITE, which is just it big drop. But I don't see anything there that I really have much interest. It did have a bunch of prints coming in at that 42 on its way back up, but you could see 41. We did have some decent selling. I mean, that's a substantial drop within the stock, just not really showing much. I mean, the prints themselves, definitely, some covering you could see at that 42 level, 41.75, but new selling at 41. You know what? We are going to watch this one. Looks like we're going to have a pretty big range on this. This is definitely at the bottom of my list by far. But it's so just based off the variables we have out here, orders are going to be extremely thin. And from dropping that much, like I said, I mean, we certainly have the potential for a gigantic range, considering on average it trades about $2.43. And overall, right now, it doesn't usually even trade during the pre-market. So the fact that it is shows a whole bunch. All right, just be careful of it getting kind of caught in this consolidation and not doing anything, but overall should show us a pretty substantial move. PCG, 243,000 shares. This one's kind of interesting. I mean, it's not great. It's another one, 246,000 shares, moving in a decent trend. Just looking, it doesn't really have any really great show of hand, or really any show of hand whatsoever. You can see all the prints there. The only thing we really do have are some prints that came in, a couple at that 35 level. And that was back at 839. So yeah, it hasn't really pulled up from those prints at 35 either. So we're going to be expecting a pull up in here. This is another one. It's not a huge one. It moves about $1.17. I am going to put it on our side list to keep a lookout. But that's really based off of, once again, having to break up above that 35 from the selling before we would end up seeing this thing end up, coming back down. You could see it, it's probably going to have a pretty substantial pull up based off the amount of covering that we see coming into it. And then, even if it's some buying within there, basically telling us that it's going to be looking for, once again, an extended move towards that upside. We have AMRN, which we already spoken about. BZUN is not coming up. Let's give it a second. If you have a short meeting, can you define covering prints? Sure. All covering prints are buy prints, but essentially they're not buying. What they're doing is they're buying back the stock. And what that's doing is that when you short a stock, you're borrowing it from a broker. Okay, so essentially you're looking for the stock to go down. You borrow it at, let's say I shorted right now at 34.95. Okay, covering prints would mean that after I sold, it shows up as a sell print for shorting it. And then coming here, 34.50, what's going to happen is when I cover it and I make my money on it, it's going to show up as a buy print. So covering print essentially is just a buy print. But it's not buying the stock. It's actually buying the stock back to give it back to where you borrowed it from. Exactly, 100%. All right, BZUN, I'm not a big fan. It does have some really great buying at that 35 level and that 36, but overall, I just don't, you know what, it's not terrible. So another one, I'm not like ecstatic about that one either, but it's not terrible, and it's really just all buying right now. We're going to need more volume. The volume right now is horrendous, and the trading is horrendous, but it does have a big range that it usually moves. So as long as we get some volume to come into this, it is all buying at that 35 and that 36 level. All right, so with BTI, 161,000 shares, just nothing moving completely to the side. DWT's ETF, STM, absolutely nothing going on there. And then MO, absolutely nothing. So we do have some decent stuff that's going on over there, just not a ton. Did we talk TLRY? No, we did not. So TLRY, yeah, overall, remember, there's a huge amount of sell prints that are sitting at that 110 level. Okay, it only moved $105. That amount of sell prints at 105, I just have a very hard time on a stock like this for them only expecting to make 5. So I do expect it to. Remember, my price target was 100. I'm still, and that's, in my opinion, is a pretty conservative price target. Remember, it moved $50 up the other day from 15 prints, and that's from those 15 prints. So if a stock pulls up after selling almost $50 or so, $40, it was like 43 and change. The expectation on what they're actually going to make on the stock has to be, a substantial amount. So I expect a lot more room towards that downside. But remember, there was a ton of selling. That's, for it to pull up like this over the weekend, no big deal whatsoever. I mean, it's to be expected. We do have a few prints that came in, at 109. That was before. But if you look right here, the only real print that we've had this morning is 111. And it actually was a bid print. So you have, one person sold 1,000 shares of it today. So that person's expecting it to fall down as well. So TLRY is certainly something that I would continue to watch. Hopefully you're already in the trade because remember, it was from $40 ago. Getting in around the 110 level where those prints are, remember, there's a big market maker there. So there's going to be a lot of kind of choppiness, and they're going to play a lot of games there. Keep that in mind on your entries. All right, guys, anything else out there that I missed? Anything else out there? All right, beautiful. So we have a pretty decent list. Obviously, AMRN and then Apple are going to be one of the first two that I'm looking at. Apple coming back down to that 199, and then our AMRN looking for this thing to break underneath 18, but eventually pull up over the 20. Some beautiful buying you can see right there, just at well, we were talking before at around that 19 level as well. So it's certainly showing that the stock after a big pull down wants to come back up. All right, guys, so let's get ready for our morning. Remember, Traders Exchange tomorrow, 12:30. Classes starting 9:15, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Other than that, I will talk to everyone in the chat room, and happy trading.